What's up, everybody? Welcome to Sports Magazine Collector. I'm Brad, and today we're going to take a trip back in time to go over some sports history from 1982. All right, so I am a huge fan of sports history, the nostalgia, the stories, the events. These are a big reason why I absolutely love collecting sports magazines. So today I'm going to try out a new video series called A Sports Magazine in Time. In these videos, I'm going to pick a random Sports Illustrated issue ranging anywhere from 1954 to present, and I'm going to go cover to cover to share interesting stories and sports history from that specific issue. I will start with the cover, explaining the context and basis for the photo, and then I'll take a deep dive into the inner contents and share anything that I find interesting. So for today's very first issue, I literally just went into my stack of SIs that I do not plan on sending to get graded, and I grabbed a random magazine without looking. And here is what I picked up. This is April 5th, 1982, and this cover shows two future NBA Hall of Famers, Patrick Ewing and James Worthy. So this is Patrick Ewing's second Sports Illustrated cover out of 15 appearances, and it's James Worthy's third cover out of 6 appearances. So if you like sports history and if you like nostalgia, stick around and let's take a walk down memory lane from 1982. All right, so first let's talk about this cover. So this cover is actually from the 1982 NCAA championship game. In this game, North Carolina beat Georgetown 63-62. There were 61,000 people in attendance, and this was in New Orleans at the Louisiana Superdome. So the Georgetown Hoyas, they were led by first-team All-American Eric Sleepy Floyd, who actually went on to a 13-year NBA career, including one All-Star appearance in 1987 with the Warriors. And then, of course, future Hall of Famer depicted here, Patrick Ewing, who was a freshman this season. North Carolina was led by first-team All-American James Worthy. They also had future NBA player Sam Perkins and a freshman that you may have heard of named Michael Jordan. So in this game, James Worthy scored 28 points, and he won the Most Outstanding Player award. Michael Jordan, as a freshman, scored 16 points, including the game-winning jump shot from the baseline with about 15 seconds to go. All right, let's open this bad boy up, and we're going to go ahead and talk immediately about this inside cover because this is something that you see in a lot of Sports Illustrated magazines, and that is cigarette advertisements. So this says you've got what it takes. Very 80s looking ad here. Got a lot of denim going on, and actually there's a little extra flap here, and you can see this is an ad for Salem Spirit cigarettes. Now, I'm going to be honest, I've never smoked a cigarette in my life. I know nothing about Salem Spirit cigarettes, but here's what's interesting. So cigarette advertising was banned from the radio and the television in 1971. And so cigarette companies went really hard on magazines, and you will see tons of cigarette ads in Sports Illustrated. You don't see it as much anymore because in 1998, there was a huge civil lawsuit that really limited even more what cigarette companies could do as far as advertising. But yeah, this is interesting. Definitely worth mentioning because, like I said, you will see these cigarette ads just about everywhere. And hey, I'm not trying to promote cigarettes here, but we're just taking a little walk down memory lane. I think it's interesting to see. All right, check out this ad right here. This is for Sears televisions. I don't even remember Sears making TVs. I remember Sears being a thing. You know, you had the Sears Tower, you had the Sears catalog. These TVs look more like microwaves to me, but talk about old school. I thought that this was pretty neat. Okay, this was pretty cool. So on one page, you had the high school's hottest for 1982, and it's the McDonald's All-Americans, the high school basketball players from that year. So I went through all these names and pictures, and there weren't a ton of super notable ones, but there were several names that I recognized. So Brad Daugherty was on this list. He was the first pick in the NBA draft from 1986 out of North Carolina, and he actually was a 5-time NBA All-Star. Johnny Dawkins is on this list, and he was All-American. He was a stud at Duke, actually College Player of the Year in 1986. There was Wayman Tisdale. I recognized his name. He was a 3-time All-American at Oklahoma. He's also in the College Basketball Hall of Fame. You had Kenny Skywalker, played 7 NBA seasons, and he won the dunk contest in 1989. And then this one was really interesting. I almost missed this one. I almost didn't recognize the name at first, but I did a double take. Wardell Curry. Okay, let's take a look here. Let's see if you can see if we can get this to focus in on Wardell Curry. There he is. Look at that. Wardell Curry. You know who that is? Look at that. Look at that little guy. That is Del Curry, father of Stephen Curry, okay, NBA legend. And Del Curry went on to have a pretty productive NBA career himself. He was a 16-year NBA veteran. So that was pretty neat, looking back at some of these old names. And I especially thought it was cool to see a really young Wardell Curry in here from these 1982 McDonald's High School All-Americans. Okay, so then we get to the story about the cover photo of North Carolina beating Georgetown in the NCAA tournament game. It said nothing could be finer. It said nothing could be finer than to be with Carolina after it had at last won the big one for Dean Smith, beating Georgetown 63-62. So I think this was a really big deal for Dean Smith. This was his first NCAA championship. He had been to quite a few Final Fours before this, but this was the first time that the legendary coach finally got over the hump and won that first championship. Now, what I really want to share is, there's a big, nice story about the game here. There's some good photos of Ewing and some of the other stars. But I want to read a little excerpt, a little snippet here about Michael Jordan, because I thought this was super interesting. So here's what it said. It said, Jordan, as ice bucket cool as a 6'5" freshman could be, had already contributed 6 baskets and 9 rebounds. Now, with 18 seconds to go, Jordan caught Black's pass in front of the Carolina bench. He was all alone. It was a play designed for him. He was right where he had imagined he would be on the bus ride over from the hotel, with the ball and the game in his hands. I didn't see it go in, he said. I didn't look at the ball at all. I just prayed. String music, choir. Man, that is awesome. Please inject that Michael Jordan nostalgia into my veins. Any video gamers out there? Check out this ad for Astro Smash. Finally, America can get a free space program. Sorry, I'm too young. Did not know what Astro Smash was, but I did a little research. Looks like it was a pretty big deal. Looks like it was a pretty cool game. Golf fans, you're going to like this one. This is a preview of the 1982 Masters, and it's a story on golfer Tom Kite. You can see the headline there, Tale of a High-Flying Kite. And this article discusses whether or not Tom Kite, who had been the previous year's money leader on the PGA Tour, if he would finally win a major. He had not yet won one. And so, this article talks about Tom Kite. Also, the author of this article, Dan Jenkins, he listed his top 10 choices for potential winners of this 1982 Masters. And his list included some pretty big names. He had Tom Watson, Jerry Pate, Seve Ballesteros. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Ray Floyd and Jack Nicklaus were also on the list. And he did have Craig Stadler on the list, who actually did go on to win this 1982 Masters. Now, as for Tom Kite, he didn't win this one. He did finally win one major, but it wasn't for 10 more years. And he only won one in his entire career. That was the 1992 US Open. Sometimes I think that the ads are just as cool to look at as the sports stuff. So here's an ad for Cinemax and HBO. HBO obviously still going real strong. Is Cinemax still a thing? I'm honestly not even sure. I remember both of these from when I was younger. Cinemax was on our cable package. Lots of good movies on there, but couldn't watch it after 10. I know that. Guys who were around in 1982, help me out here. What is this? Kangaroos, the total shoe, world's only shoes with pockets? I mean, I've never even heard. Bring back kangaroos. I mean, shoes with pockets. Why is this still not a thing? All right, I think this is pretty cool. Keeping close watch on Fernando. So this is Fernando Valenzuela. Remember, this issue that we're looking at is from 1982, and you may remember Fernando Mania was 1981. Fernando Valenzuela was huge in 1981. He actually won the Cy Young Award. He went on just like this absolutely insane stretch for the Dodgers where he started, I don't even know what it was, but a crazy amount of games with just incredible performances. So I did not know that the following year, I guess, he was in a holdout. He was in a contract standoff with the Dodgers, and that's what this article is about. And so I'm actually going to read the first 3 paragraphs of this story because I didn't know anything about it. I thought it was really interesting. At a little dinner party given at the White House last Thursday night for the president of Italy, a few of Tommy Lasorda's very closest friends inquired about the health of one of his pitchers. Frank Sinatra asked, George Bush asked, even President Reagan asked about Fernando. Fernando Valenzuela is fine, thank you. At 10:14 a.m. on March 24th, Valenzuela made his first official 1982 appearance in his Dodger blues. He emerged from the clubhouse into the bright Vero Beach, Florida sunshine and began breaststroking his way through a crowd of newsmen, cameramen, and Fernando maniacs. To the rescue came traveling secretary Billy DeLury, driving golf cart number 25. Valenzuela climbed into the shotgun seat and manager Lasorda onto the back, and off they went down Vin Scully Way. At Duke Snyder Road, the cart turned right. Valenzuela had arrived in Dodger Town the previous night, ending his month-long holdout. After conferring with his agent and his lawyer, Valenzuela decided to join his teammates without agreeing to the Dodgers' latest offer of $350,000 for the season, plus $100,000 in incentives. Last year at this time, Valenzuela was a rookie with a $42,500 salary, but that was 13 victories, 11 sellouts at Dodger Stadium, and 1 Cy Young award to go. Now the president wants to know how Fernando is. So yeah, I thought that was really cool. I knew about Fernando Mania, did not know about the contract standoff, and he did go on to have a pretty successful 1982 season. He went 19-13 with a 2.87 ERA, and he finished third in the Cy Young. All right, we got back-to-back advertisements, which I think were pretty cool. So this is for ESPN. Now watch sports on TV absolutely anytime with ESPN. ESPN was less than 3 years old at this time, and I thought it was really interesting. This ad said, see sports like Top Rank Boxing, college football, pro football from Canada, college basketball, auto racing, and professional tennis. So it didn't even mention the NBA or the NFL, which, that was very interesting to me. And then let's flip this over. Here's an ad, Flash and Fashion from Jordache. Once again, a brand of shoes I'm not familiar with. If you ever had a pair of Jordache shoes, let me know. Drop it in the comments. They look like Converse to me. Video gamers, here's another one for you. Grand Prix from Activision. All right, here's a page just advertising for Sports Illustrated, but I love the photo. You got George Brett here, but this is what I really liked. Look at this. This is a pretty sweet photo of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and he is absolutely posterizing Dr. J, Julius Erving. Okay, now we've got the For the Record section, and there were some interesting tidbits in here. I'm gonna actually read a couple. So let's see if you remember any of these moments. Pro basketball, it says, Atlantic Division leading Boston, unbeaten in 5 weeks and on a club record 18-game win streak, ran into some very hot 76ers and lost 116-98. Milwaukee clinched the Central Division with a 128-99 defeat of foundering San Diego, loser of 24 of its last 26. Despite perfect 3-0 weeks by Denver, winner of 9 straight, and Houston, whose Moses Malone leads the league in rebounding and is second in scoring, San Antonio held on to its 3.5-game lead in the Midwest with a 114-110 victory at Utah. George Gervin had 47 for the Spurs to ice the Jazz's 17th straight defeat. Okay, and then in golf, Tom Watson shot par on the 3rd hole of a sudden death playoff with Frank Connor to win the $300,000 Heritage Classic in Hilton Head, South Carolina. And there's a little snippet about Wayne Gretzky in here as well under pro hockey. It says, adding insult to injury and yet another record to the NHL books, Smith Division champion Edmonton's Wayne Gretzky became the first player to get 200 points in a season when he scored 2 shorthanded goals in 27 seconds and added a pair of assists in a 7-2 flameout at Calgary. Gretzky's next goal is 100 goals. After number 91 in a 6-6 tie with Colorado, he said of the century mark, if I were going to bet, I use someone else's money, but the record is not out of the question. At week's end, the count stood at 92 with 2 games remaining. So Wayne Gretzky actually finished that season with 92 goals. Once again, this is 1982, and that is still the record for most goals in a single season. And Wayne Gretzky went on to be named the 1982 Sportsman of the Year by Sports Illustrated at the end of this calendar year. All right, here's a little advertisement for Primatene Mist. And I had to put it on here because it's got my guy Bob Gibson, Hall of Fame pitching great Bob Gibson. He said, bronchial asthma never shut me out of the action and still doesn't. All right, that's it. Step out of the DeLorean, come back to 2022. What'd you think? Did you enjoy this video? Is this a segment that I should continue posting? I would love to hear your feedback. And I always appreciate likes, comments, and subscribes. So stick around for one more minute as we close out with some 1982 sports trivia. Time for some trivia. Here we go. In the last video, I asked the question of the 28 MLB players in the 500 home run club. There was only one who played in the 1980s or later and was never on the cover of any type of Sports Illustrated issue. Who is that player? And the answer was Rafael Palmeiro. Now, for today's question, sticking with our 1982 theme, there are 5 Hall of Fame eligible players in Major League Baseball history to win multiple MVP awards and not be inducted into the Hall of Fame. 3 of those players have been linked to PEDs: Barry Bonds, Alex Rodriguez, and Juan Gonzalez. The 4th is Roger Maris, who is the 5th player who won his first MVP in 1982. Leave your answer in the comments, and the first to get it correct will get a shout out in my next video. See you guys.